Greetings and happy Monday, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Mallory D. McCoy, and welcome to this week's episode of A Monday Moment with Dr. Mal. As always, may this broadcast bring you what you need in the present moment. May my light exude positivity and kindness, and may my love be extended to all who could use a little extra. Ashe. Let's seize the moment. This week, I'm in gratitude because for the next couple of weeks, I'm back to a solo episode format. So I'm grateful to be able to share my personal story for the month of April because it's near and dear to my heart. I just wanted to say a couple of things though. Shout out to my new brother I just met again in this life. I met him before, but we did not connect in the way that we connect right now. He recently invited me to record for his podcast. So that's the first time that I have been interviewed by someone else. And I will say, honestly, that was up until this point, my most raw and most real conversation that I've had with anybody. And so I'm just so glad to be able to share my story. And I'm so glad for his encouragement to allow me to step into my full authenticity and to share my truth. So I'm grateful for that. And then in saying that, and in light of authenticity, you'd never be able to look at me and tell, but I have been going through it. You hear me? Like, God is like, snatch, 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 because I'm in this cycle of death and rebirth, but it's really like, death, 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 death. I'm waiting for the rebirth. Hopefully it will come soon. But despite it all, I still have so much gratitude for what's happening because I know that it's happening for me. It's not happening to me. And the Most High is showing up in the biggest way. So I just want to say that even though sometimes we are going through what seems like a chaotic moment, hold on to those glimmers of gratitude that we have in our everyday. So I am just bathing in gratitude, lathering it on like a lotion, diving in it, swimming in it, wrapping myself in it. I am just so grateful, and I cannot tell you how grateful I am. There's not even enough words in the English language to express. So all of my episodes for the month of April have to do with autism. And y'all, today's episode is deeply personal and it's raw and it's real. And I actually have been contemplating the right time to share it because I don't know when I put this out how it's going to be received. So, anyway, no longer worried about that because I am putting it out in the most authentic way. So, what better way to kick off Autism Acceptance Month? Acceptance. We are aware of autism. We don't need to be aware of it anymore, but we need to accept that autistic people are part of our society. So, anyway, then by sharing my experience with my son, who I am fully convinced communicates with me through a deep, unseen, and often dismissed way to connect, and that is telepathy. Yes, my autistic son, who is non speaking, very much uses telepathy as one way to communicate with me. And now I know that I'm not alone in this revelation. Listening to the documentary, The Telepathy Tapes, affirmed everything I've intuitively known, but wasn't always sure how to articulate. And if you're listening and thinking, wait, is telepathy real? Trust me, you are in for an eye opening episode. But before I get into my story, let's take a moment to set the stage and talk about something that's been lost to time but has always been with us. Because you know I love me a good definition and I'm team hashtag facts over feelings. So let's get into it. Did you know that humans in ancient times likely used telepathic communication as a primary way to connect? Think about it. Before language was developed, how do you think we truly understood each other? There's evidence that indigenous cultures, spiritual practitioners, and even our own ancestors engaged in nonverbal mind to mind communication. I was nurtured into using English as a primary form of communication. But did you know that the English language was never meant to be a primary language for anyone? It was developed as a trade language, a mixture of many tongues simplified for the sake of business. That's not just poetic, it's historical. And makes sense, especially if you're a grammar nerd like me and know that English is a difficult language to learn because there's so many rules that aren't as sequential and predictable as other languages. There's a researcher on YouTube. Look him up. His name is Dane Calloway, and his content is highly recommended by me to watch because his research is so hard to refute. He's just so thorough in his research and made sure that no one could refute him. And as a researcher, I love that. So there's this video that was released about 5 years ago, and it's titled, What Language Was Used Before English Existed? And it actually catapulted me into expanding my view about different forms of communication. My son had already started the journey for me, so this is just one of those nuggets that I received along the way that I didn't know that would lead to this moment and this realization. And of course, 5 years ago, we were in a whole pandemic and we were in a whole quarantine. So, I had time today. I dived into that information. So, anyway, according to Dane Calloway, English, Spanish, and French are pidgin languages, languages created without native speakers for trade, commerce, and control. Before all that, our ancestors communicated through pictographs, sign language, and yes, telepathy. Calloway explained that when ancient people needed to connect without a common language, they relied on what he calls the universal language, sign language. But even deeper than that, many believe telepathy was the original form of communication. And think about it logically. Before the alphabet, we had images that conveyed full thoughts. No words were exchanged, just pictures. And before speaking, think about babies. They communicate through energy, emotion, and intent. They don't have words, but they communicate. And then one of the things I also got into during the pandemic was people speaking about their near death experiences. If you're interested, all you got to do is check it out on YouTube and type in near death experiences. It is mind blowing. But almost all of them report when they get to the other side that telepathy is the main form of communication. And communication happens instantly through thought. So, if telepathy is the language of the soul, then why are we so quick to assume that only the verbal are communicating? And then beyond that, I'm a musician through and through, and I sing in and I conduct choirs. And if you think about that, there's a lot of language being used all at the same time in a musical experience. Scratch that. There are a lot of languages being used in any creative experience of any sort, but I am speaking about music because I'm just well versed there. One of the ways that I experience a creative space is through music and through the music funnel. But as a conductor, students watch my hands and me as a form of communication and anticipate what I'm going to do next because they have experience with me, but also it's because I know how to communicate with them non-verbally. I don't have to say anything. I just do and they follow. And even beyond that, if you think about it, we all use telepathy in our everyday, but we just don't connect it to that. So, like, for example, when you say a silent prayer, is that not a form of telepathy? Because you're not using verbal words to communicate to the God of your understanding, but you trust that you're being heard. And another simple example of telepathy is simply like when you're thinking about somebody, then they call you or they text you. That's a form of telepathy, but we don't think about that. How is it that we can accept that Wi Fi can pass through walls, but we can't accept that our thought can pass through different energy waves? It's wild. Anyway, let me be clear right here. Language, as it is taught to us now, is a tool, but telepathy is a gift that we all have. It's a gift that our ancestors knew intimately. We just got conditioned out of it through what Dane Calloway calls polysynthesis, a system used to simplify language, erase culture, and control the way we express ourselves and understand each other. Let that marinate on the soul for a minute. Other facts that bring this into a more modern perspective include the following. Studies on nonverbal autistic individuals show that many display an uncanny ability to anticipate needs, emotions, and even thoughts of those around them without any verbal cues. And we've all experienced this with people who have lost the ability to use one or two of their senses. For example, someone who is blind has really great hearing, and a deaf person has really great eyesight. I know that my son's biggest sense is feel, and he loudly feels his way through the world. He feels all type of energy, and honestly, he has taught me to recognize people's energies, and he's taught me how to feel because I had disconnected from my body at some point. You have to listen to another podcast to understand why, but he's actually brought me back into my body to learn how to feel and how to recognize those feelings. And so I trust him and his feelings so much because that's how he moves through the world. That if I walk into a room and he doesn't mess with you, then I know that I can't mess with you. Or there's something funky about your energy, and he's picking up on that. He feels it. The Institute of Noetic Sciences, run that back, has conducted multiple studies showing that telepathic communication is most common between close family members, particularly parents and children, which again, why wouldn't it be? A mother and child are already deeply connected energetically before birth. And if you spend enough time in someone's energy, you can finish their sentences, know what they're thinking before they say anything, and anticipate their needs. But I mean, now that I know what I know about telepathy, is it really anticipation? So those are all the good facts because you know I love them. But let me go ahead and take you into my story because this is where it gets real. And I should start by saying there are so many layers to the story that I could tell, but I will start with me. I said this in my last podcast, but lately I've noticed that things in my life have been automated. Like I'll do something or say things that I don't feel like are coming directly from me. All great things with all great results, but I truly feel like it's the Most High that's giving me this space to like move. I can't explain it. The person would just have to experience it to know what I'm talking about. But if I could give you a visual, it's like being in a car that drives itself and not knowing the destination, but you have to trust the destination and direction in this car. But then added to that, you are blindfolded like Sandra Bullock was in the Bird Box, and you literally have to just go forward being blind. Put those two together. Smash them together. That's how I feel about what's happening to me. So fast forward to last December 28th. That's my son's birthday. I'm in the bed and I just roll over to get ready to type a birthday shout out about him on social media. And when I tell you the words just flowed out of my head without a second thought, they did. And I'm a person that has to write down everything. But sometimes I have to think my way through it. But this, I didn't have to think my way through this status. One of the things that I love about updating the world about my son is the interactions that I get from people because people are genuinely curious about our life moving through neurodivergence and autism. And so I decided to speak about all of the ways he has grown over the last year, and not just physically, but mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. And one of the things I mentioned without even thinking about it was that he primarily communicates telepathically, and he was going to teach the world how to communicate that way again. And like I said, I typed it, but it literally didn't feel like it was coming from me. It felt like it was coming from like what I described before. So anyway, I was completely shocked and surprised when a friend from college that I know through music inboxed me to tell me about the Telepathy Tapes documentary that her friend was completing. Because when she told me about it, she hadn't finished the first season of the Telepathy Tapes. And so she told me a little bit about what she knew about it. And she told me that she thinks that I would have a strong connection to many of these families. And so she sent me the link and suggested I listen to it. And I'll tell you, that moment was a pivotal moment in my life because I was thinking about how affirmed my intuitive thoughts were, because I had real life examples of what I experienced, but I just blew it off because I was in disbelief at the time. I do that a lot. When great things happen or things that are unbelievable happen to me, sometimes I gaslight myself and I'm like, oh, that's not happening. That's not happening. So anyway, I'm cleaning the house. And so I have my headphones on, and most of the time I'm listening to music, but something was like, listen to this Telepathy Tapes podcast. And so I did. In the first episode I listened to, I was blown away. Like literally, I was like shocked and dropping my jaw. And then through the second and third one, there were so many moments where my heart was racing because I was experiencing a very similar experience with my son. But by the time I got to the fourth episode, which speaks directly about educators noticing the telepathic gifts of their students, I was in full blown tears. In fact, I, at the moment, recorded a video for the documentary creator, Kai Dickens, to send to my friend so that she could send it to her, because I just wanted her to know how impactful her work was to me. So I'm about to show a small part of this video. It was 7 minutes total. I cut it down a little bit. I was also very much in a robe and a bonnet because I was cleaning, but I just wanted to, in my authentic way, unapologetically share a very raw, a very vulnerable, and a very cut wide open moment for me. So take a look.
I just had to record a video right now so that I can come back to this at some point, but I'm sitting here and I'm listening to a podcast called the Telepathy Tapes. I'm only at episode 4 and I'm overwhelmed with emotions because I feel so validated. I have experienced this with my son since he was born, since before he was born. If I can think back, he's always communicated to me this way. And like I know everything. I know everything about him. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I even had a dream a couple years back that he would communicate at 8. That 8 would be the year that he would learn how to communicate. And in the dream, he just started speaking complete sentences. But I think what I was supposed to know is that it's through me listening to this podcast that we're supposed to learn how he communicates. And he communicates telepathically. I'm only on episode 4, and I listen to these parents speak about their child, and I'm like, that's everything that they're saying. That's Raymond. That's Raymond. This is him. This is him. And I was even told by a woman who reads Akashic records that Raymond's purpose here is bigger than anything that I could ever imagine for him, and that he would change the world. He would change how we communicate in the world. He would teach us how to communicate. He would be a part of that. So I feel so validated. I feel so happy. I also feel so sad that, has he been imprisoned in his mind for 8 years with an inability to communicate to others in the way that others communicate because we can't communicate how he communicates? Like, there's so many questions that I have right now. but I just wanted to document this moment so when I'm on the other side of it, I can come back and remember the enlightenment. And I can testify how I was able to push through and how I was able to help my son express himself and use the voice that he is using that may be different from the voice that we have adapted to using. But this documentary that's coming out is coming at the right time. Like, everything's aligned at the right time for my baby, who doesn't have words right now, but these are happy tears, but also a whole lot of other things. I'm just so thankful. I gotta talk about my own experience with my own child and how he communicates with me telepathically. Even the other day, my partner was like, "How did you know that?" I couldn't even explain it. I just came up with a off the wall explanation about how I knew that, but I just did. I just knew. And now I know I can say, he told me. I knew because he told me. But he didn't use words to tell me. He doesn't talk to me like that. I'm excited for him. And I'm excited for us. And I'm excited to move into this community and help him to find his people, find his voice, find his soul groups. I'm a part of his soul group, and I'm here to help him move into a space of comfort, a space of peace.
It's hard for me to watch that video back, but I just felt so affirmed and hopeful in the moment. Those were tears of joy. And I'll tell you that normally my son gets irritated when I talk too much. We call him the talking police because he's coming in and shutting it down. But when I speak about his telepathic capabilities, he tunes in and beams with pride. Case in point, I have two real life examples of this. I sent the podcast as soon as I finished listening to it to his team at school, specifically his teacher and his speech therapist. His teacher caught me in the office one morning when we were running late after listening to the podcast, and her and I had a longer than normal conversation about it. It was about 10 minutes. And while we were talking, instead of getting upset like my son generally does when people are talking, he was smiling while he was listening to us, and he was demonstrating excitement by clapping. And then he has a repeat path that he likes to run back and forth when he gets really excited. So he was demonstrating these things and he did not get upset at all. And she's actually mentioned that she had a similar reaction when her and the paras in the room were discussing the telepathy tapes. And he actually stopped what he was doing and looked in her direction with a smile and quietly listened to them and without getting upset. And so I just feel like he's so proud that we know how he communicates. And I'm so proud of myself because I've tuned in more to this energy, because one of the major challenges that I had previously experienced with him was his inability to communicate what hurts. He has always had an abnormally high pain threshold, which is a characteristic of autism. And so if he was crying about something, or he is crying about something, I know he's really hurting. But until like the last couple of years, and it's still developing, he would just cry profusely. And I would get all anxious because I just wouldn't know how to help him. And so I would try to troubleshoot all of his pain. It ended up sometimes being with pain medicine and stuff like that, which in hindsight, I wish I knew more about pain medicines and things like that. I was just doing what I thought was best at the time. But anyway, I was always ready to take him to the hospital because I knew that they had machines that they could help to look inside, because I didn't. But they too would also struggle with knowing what he needed without running a whole bunch of tests. It was just a lot of trial and error. Even though I have not always known what he's needed in all facets, for the most part, I can tune into his needs pretty frequently. I've heard people ask me, like, how did you know that? Or how did you even know what he needs? Including his father. He's watched me tune into what he needs, and he's like, I would have never figured that out. And I literally cannot explain it. I just know what I know. Well, before this, before knowing what I know now, I would just say, like, I know what I know, but now I know different. So I have a stark example of telepathy that I think that I was also involved in, and it involves Wendy's fries. So my son loves him some Wendy's fries, and I occasionally have carb attacks, and I need Wendy's fries too. I don't need them, but I want them. So anyway, we were pulling up to Wendy's one day. As I was pulling up, because I normally only order one bag of fries, but that day I wanted some too. So I was thinking in my head that I should ask if they could put the fries in two separate bags, so I could throw one bag in the back seat and then have a bag for myself. But I had ordered the fries, but I didn't say that out loud. I was just saying it in my head about these two bags. And so we pull up on the window. I paid for the order. I'm still thinking this in my head, but I never say it out loud. Then the lady turns around to me and she says, I seen your son in the back. I thought that I should put the fries in two separate bags. And my mind was blown that day. This was before the telepathy tapes. But I was like, how does she know? Because I literally didn't say anything to her at the speaker box, and I said nothing to her at the window. But I was thinking it. Honestly, that day I was blown by it, but I still blew it off. I still didn't I still well, because I didn't have telepathy to connect it to. So I was just like, okay, that was just something happenstance. But now that I know what I know, I literally am like, dang, I told her that I needed two bags. And then my son helped me to tell her that I needed two bags. So that was wild. And another example that I can access easily is from a few months ago when he was trying to communicate that he wanted to take a shower. Now, if you experience living with an autistic person, one of the things they may do is take you to whatever they need or want by pulling your hand to the thing that they need or want to do. I've been pulled all over this house. I've been pulled all over outside. But honestly, that's just been the easiest way for him to communicate. For a while now, I've been trying to get him to use his most powerful voice to live in a verbal world. And that most powerful voice that he has is Touch Chat, which is an app on the iPad that we program buttons for. We equals me and his teachers, but it's only limited to what we know he knows. It's only limited to the vocabulary that he's practiced accessing. But he is starting to realize that it's his most powerful voice, and that's because I keep redirecting him to it. So, anyway, I was sitting on the couch. He came in front of me and gestured upstairs, and he tried to pull me off the couch, and I was like, no, buddy, you're not about to be pulling me all through this house. So then I went to go get his iPad, and I brought it back to where I was sitting. And I said, hey, can you take me to where you are trying to communicate? So he starts navigating the app and he gets to the places board, and he was doing like a gesture to indicate to me that he was looking for something but it wasn't there, and the gesture's like this, like he's trying to look for it but he can't find it. And so I just say, you want to take a shower? And he's like, da, which is go. And I'm like, so I programmed quickly a button on his iPad so that he can ask me to take a shower formally. And so his dad was like, how did you know that you want to take a shower? And I just literally knew. I didn't know how I knew, but I just literally knew. And there's so many other times like that where I just feel like he needs something to eat or other needs met because I hear them in my head. And again, before listening to the telepathy tapes, I just assumed like it's because we have a deep connection, but it's deeper than I ever thought that it was. And through the telepathy tapes, I was able to learn about other non speaking autistic individuals through letterboards, AAC devices, and other means, express that they are aware of everything happening around them and communicate telepathically. These children, these individuals are not nonverbal. They are non speaking, but they are far from silent. The bigger part of this is just how many people are being dismissed, ignored, or assumed to be disconnected when in reality they are more in tune than the rest of us. Non speakers are being societally pushed into learning how to be verbal because not being verbal is looked at as being incompetent, when really the incompetent ones are the verbals because they rely so heavily on verbals they can't communicate any other way, or are blocked off from their body that they can't feel their intuition or tune into nonverbal communication. And pick me. I am certainly not judging in this space because I have struggled with my own body, as I just alluded to before, and being disconnected from my body. And I've struggled in certain situations depending on the context. But having my son has certainly helped heal that part of me. So, my call to action. What do we do with all of this? For parents of autistic people, observe without assumption. Watch how your children respond to energy and not just words. When you think about something in your head, do they react? Are there moments when they answer a question before you say it out loud? Start documenting it. The more you notice, the clearer it becomes. I should note here that in this documentary, I learned that autistic people may not connect to more than one person. They may just choose to connect with one person. And in our situation, I know the one person that my son has chosen to connect with is me. And for educators and therapists and just the general public, assume competence in every autistic individual you work with or you come across. And just because they don't speak with words doesn't mean that they don't have deep, complex thoughts and emotions. And for everyone at large, let's move beyond the outdated assumption that verbal speech is the only form of communication. Language, like I said earlier, is just a tool. It is not the essence of understanding. Challenge the systems. I talk about systems a lot. Challenge the systems that limit communication to just words and ask yourself who benefits from this system and who loses their voice because of it. And most importantly, if you are a non speaking autistic individual or you love someone who is, trust when I say they hear you and they hear you loudly and in more ways than one. So, to wrap up today's episode, I'll leave you with a quote and a list of affirmations. The quote that I have for you today: the real voyage of discovery consists not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes. And that's by Marcel Proust. That's a whole word. And then the 10 affirmations I have for you today are the following: I trust my inner knowing and honor what I feel to be true. I listen with my heart, not just my ears. I am connected to the world beyond language. I am open to new ways of understanding communication. Telepathy is a natural and ancient ability within me. I am divinely guided in my parenting and in my spiritual growth. Absolutely. That's a whole word right there, because that's me. The bond between me and my child is sacred and unbreakable. I trust my child's intelligence and inner wisdom. I embrace the magic of connection beyond spoken language. And I welcome deeper intuition and awareness into my life. Well, that's all for me this week. I'm forever honored that you tune in, and woo, I know that was a lot. So I just want to thank you for holding this space with me and hearing my heart. Telepathy may sound wild to some, but for those of us who live in it every day, it's real. It's sacred and it's worth speaking about. And I truly believe that conversations like these are part of something bigger. And if this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to DM me, comment, or share your own experiences with telepathy. And if you haven't if you haven't gotten a chance yet, go listen to the Telepathy Tapes. I was able to access it on Apple Podcasts, but there's a website, thetelepathytapes.com, and you can go there and it will redirect you to all of the places where you can find the podcast. And I think that there's going to be a documentary soon, if not already. I promise you, it will shift the way you see everything. Make sure to share this episode with someone who needs it, especially parents, educators, and anyone walking this autism journey with love and intention. Next week, I'm continuing speaking about my autism journey with my son. And the show is titled, actually, My Child Has Autism, Now What? It's a show that you don't want to miss. So until then, love and peace to all of you. Have the best week.